You know, when I first started making videos for YouTube, I was very awkward. I didn't really know what to say. I couldn't string a sentence together very well. I didn't have continuity or clarity of thought. I kept falling over myself, in other words, thinking, have I said the right thing, or have I said it in the right way, or have I even covered the ground that I wanted to cover? And then when I look back at the videos, I started feeling pretty bad about myself. First of all, I didn't like the way that I looked. I didn't like the way that I was presenting myself. I didn't like the way I was phrasing things. And I didn't like the sound of my voice. Now that last, of course, is pretty odd given that I worked in media broadcasting in radio for many years. But I didn't ever have to listen to myself. The people at the other end were the ones who were unfortunate enough to have to listen to me. But I've never ever got used to the sound of my own voice, even though, like I said, I worked in radio, and so theoretically I should have. But what I've discovered over the years, and it's been now about 3.5, maybe 4 years that I've been making YouTube videos, is that you actually gain an acceptance of yourself that you may not previously have had. So you come to terms with the way that you look and the way that you sound, and you develop a much better way of expressing yourself, covering the territory that you want to cover, stringing a sentence together well, and communicating a little better, and presumably over time a lot better. Now, I don't script anything, and I see that a lot of people do, and they suggest that you do, but how often do we script our interchanges with people in real life? We don't script conversations. I suppose we might script public speaking, but I never have. I've just gone up there, and I've done a fair bit of public speaking. I've just gone up there knowing what it is that I have to say, focusing more not necessarily on what it is that I have to say, but on what the message is, because messaging is so critically important. And so I don't script anything for YouTube. I know what it is I have to cover, and I just go ahead and I cover that. If I find later on, when I think about it or review the footage, discover that I haven't made a particular point, I do have the advantage of being able to either add something in or add a voiceover, in the form of narration a bit later on. So I certainly have the opportunity of amending that. But then that's also available to us anyway in real life, if you think about it, because of course if we make a mistake and we say the wrong thing or we leave something out, we can always contact that person again and tell them, I forgot to say, or I was going to mention, or whatever. So my message to you is, you should do it too. You should make YouTube videos, because I think they're beneficial for you, first of all, to be able to accept yourself for the way that you look, the way that you sound, and the way you look while expressing yourself. And you'll also gain a better clarity of thought and a way of expressing yourself which is, let's say, more precise or more accurate. And at the same time too, I suppose, you get an understanding also of your, let's say, shortcomings. For example, the number of times you might say or before commencing a sentence, and then strive to try and eliminate that from conversations, both to camera and of course in real life, because these are subconscious or automatic and we don't necessarily think about them. They're kind of time reserving noises that we might make, so we can reserve some space by saying which gives us time to think. I do it. I still do it. But I become very conscious of it, so I then try and ensure that I don't do it all the time, or too much, or before every single sentence. And then, of course, you don't have to publish your videos. You do have an option to choose a private hosting so that you can upload it and only look at it yourself, or only let people see it whose opinion you value, so that they can then give you an opinion on what it is that you've said, how it is that you've said it, and what it might be you need to do in order to improve it. So look, just a brief one, but a suggestion: you ought to make YouTube videos yourself.